Oh. All right, we're going to read chapter 9 of The Patchwork Bride by Sandra Dallas. And I'm a day or two behind on this because life's been kind of busy. But now I'm going to read to me. I'm going to read to me and read to you a little bit. Here goes. Chapter 9. Lucy came into Nell's room one afternoon not long after Nell returned from the mountains and confided she and Buddy were going to marry. She had hoped to keep the engagement secret for a time, but Lucy informed Mr. Archer, who forgot it was a secret and congratulated Buddy at supper that night, and the word was out. The cowboys were happy because Buddy was a favorite among them, and they liked Nell. No one was surprised, though. Nell wouldn't be the first hired girl to marry a rockin' A hand. No one but Alice and Owen, it seemed. "I hope you're happy you broke my brother's heart, Miss Hired Girl. You should be ashamed of yourself, leading Owen on like that," Alice told Nell when they ran into each other in Las Vegas. Then she added, "You certainly set your cap for my boyfriend. Well, he isn't married yet. I didn't come home all the way from New York to see him hitch himself to some cook's helper. There's still time for him to come to his senses." Nell was too shocked to think of a response. Not until she was on her way home did it occur to her that she should have said that Buddy had indeed come to his senses. That was why he had proposed to her instead of Alice. Now Lucy sat down on the edge of Nell's bed and handed her a flour sack. Nell reached inside and removed a length of fabric. "My Aunt Mary, your grandmother's sister, cut out this dress long ago," Lucy explained. "She was going to wear it at her wedding, but her fiancé was killed in the war between the states. Aunt Mary never married, and she never finished the dress. The style is old-fashioned, but I believe we could remake it as a wedding dress for you." Lucy spread out pieces of fragile white silk on the bed, some of them overlaid with lace. The lace is handmade. It might have been old even back then. Nell ran her fingers over the thin silk. Aunt Mary probably intended to wear it with a hoop skirt. Look how much material there is. But the bodice is a nice cut, and I believe it would fit you. Aunt Mary was tall like you." Lucy smoothed the top of the dress. "It seems held together by pins that were rusty with age." "It's beautiful," Nell said. "I would love to wear it." Lucy smiled. "I thought I might wear it myself one day, but I won't." She paused. "Some might think it bad luck wearing a wedding dress made for a woman whose intended died, but I don't hold with that." "Me either," Nell said. "In fact, I think it might honor Aunt Mary to wear her gown. I remember her. There was always something sad about her, and sour after she got older. She told me once that without a husband, she felt incomplete. She thought of herself as a failure." Nell stared at her aunt. "And you? Do you feel that way, Aunt Lucy?" Nell turned away, embarrassed at her impertinence. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said." "Sad? Sour? Not at all," Lucy interrupted. "I have the benefits of marriage without the fuss." She gave Nell a look of defiance. "Marriage is fine for most women, but some of us can get along without it." And then she added, I'm not sure you're one of us." After Lucy left, Nell picked up each piece of the dress and studied it. She would change the sleeves a little and rework the skirt, making it less full. She reached into the bottom of the sack and pulled out a crumpled piece of lace. It was indeed very fine, and Nell thought she could wear it instead of a hat. She hadn't even thought about a wedding dress. Instead, she had begun making a wedding quilt for Buddy, and here was one already cut out for her. Of course the dress would take work, but there was plenty of time. She and Buddy wouldn't be married for months. Her grandparents would come to the wedding. Nell was sure of that. They and Lucy were the only family she had, and it meant everything to her that they would all be together. They would invite the Rockin' A cowboys and ranch families who had been nice to her, along with the people in town. They would invite the McIntoshes too, even Alice, especially Alice, Nell thought. She wanted the wedding to be held at the ranch. They'd stand with the minister on the portico, decorated with golden aspirin, and Nell would carry a bouquet of charisma and purple asters and daisies. She'd wear her great-aunt's gown with the piece of old lace on her head. Lucy would stand up with her and Mr. Archer, or maybe Wendell would be the best man. Nell was aware that war was coming. They all were. Everyone on the Rockin' A knew that the USS Maine had been blown up in the harbor in Cuba and that the newspapers blamed the Spanish. Everyone was calling for the government to drive them out of Cuba. But Cuba was so far away that the cowboys hadn't paid all that much attention to the war talk, and Nell had been too engrossed in Buddy and the ranch to give it a thought. Then at supper one night, Mr. Archer announced he had heard the Army was recruiting cowboys from New Mexico Territory to join the 1st U.S. Volunteer Cavalry, which would invade Cuba. Cowboys? Wendell asked. How come cowboys? I guess they don't want no eastern dudes that never slept any place but a feather bed. Cowboys can ride and shoot and roll up at night on the ground. If you had to choose between a cowpuncher and a greener, who'd you pick? Mr. Archer replied. You're right about that, Wendell said. Now, I hate to see any of you boys go, but I got to do my patriotic duty and tell you if you want to join up, I'll hold your jobs open till you come back. He added, I hear Willie Burton's already volunteered. Willie? He just got married, one of the hands said, which caused snickers around the table. I wonder if he don't like married life, Monty said. He's a red-blooded American with a wife to come home to, Buddy told him. Then maybe you ought to get hitched to Nell right now if you're thinking of joining up, Wendell replied. Maybe I will. Nell glanced at Buddy, but he wouldn't look at her. He had never told her he was thinking of joining the Army. They'd never talked about it. They hadn't even talked about the USS Maine being blown up or the possibility that America would go to war. She couldn't stand it if he left. He might get killed. She wouldn't let him go. Nell thought of the aunt whose wedding dress she would wear and how her fiancé had been killed in the war. And she wondered if the gown was some kind of omen. She would never let that happen to Buddy, ever. When he asked her about joining the Army, she would tell him no. Buddy left the table as soon as supper was over. He had work to do in the barn, and in the morning he left just after he bolted breakfast. Mr. Archer was sending him into Las Vegas to pick up some supplies. Nell had hoped to be invited to go with him, but neither Buddy nor Mr. Archer suggested she accompany him, and Nell, afraid she would be turned down, didn't request the time off. Buddy returned late in the afternoon, and at supper he announced that Owen McIntosh was joining the Army. People were calling the unit Roosevelt's Rough Riders. It will be the most exciting adventure since the war between the states, he said. Are you joining up then? One of the cowhands asked Buddy. He glanced at Nell. I just might. Without talking to me, Nell wanted to ask, but with others at the table she couldn't protest. Well, let me know, she said, sure that everyone heard the displeasure in her voice. She thought Buddy would seek her out after dinner, but he went off with Wendell to doctor a horse, and it was the next day before they talked. Nell was on the porch churning butter. They don't let just anybody join the Rough Riders, but Mr. Archer knows a man. He's sure I can get in. If they'll take Owen McIntosh, they'll surely want me. How did you know about Owen? Alice told me. Oh, you've seen Alice? Nell tried to keep the anger out of her voice. Well, sure, I stopped at the McIntosh house to say hello. You aren't jealous, are you? No more than you are of Owen. Nell gave the churn a vicious whack, knowing she was indeed jealous. She didn't trust Alice, and she wondered now if she trusted Buddy. She and Buddy weren't married yet. How he could still change his mind. Buddy frowned. You've seen Owen. Maybe you already knew about him going for a soldier. And Alice, did you tell her you were thinking of joining the army before you told me? Buddy didn't answer. Instead, he said, Come on, Nell. I thought you'd be right proud if I joined up. It's a chance to do a little perootin' before I settle down. And me? Do I get to do a little perootin' too? Buddy looked startled. You're a woman. I think you would have talked to me before you made a decision. You mean I got to ask your permission? He reached for the churn, but Nell held on to it. You don't have to ask me for anything. You just suit yourself. The churning was done, and Nell poured the buttermilk into a pitcher so fast that it slopped over on the side. Then she took the butter to the sink, where she washed and salted it. She wouldn't let Buddy help her. Give here. He yanked the butter from her and put it into the icebox. You're a stubborn woman. Nell glared at him. I take it we don't think alike on several points, but it sounds like you're telling me what to do. I wouldn't abide a wife who did that. But you tell me what to do. She removed the butter and put it into a wooden mold. I disremember telling you anything. Besides, so what if I did? A husband's got the right. Not my husband, Nell said. Well, good luck to him then. Buddy stomped out of the kitchen, letting the screen slam, and Nell, angry herself, took off her apron, balled it up, and threw it at the door. For a day or two, Buddy sulked. He didn't come around except for meals. Then he showed up one afternoon with a bouquet of roses he'd picked from Lucy's garden. Lucy would be furious, but Nell was pleased at the gesture. It was Buddy's way of apologizing, she thought. She held the flowers to her nose for a moment to take in their sweet smell, smiling a little as she remembered the bouquet of brown-eyed Susans with the bee inside. She put the flowers into a mason jar of water and set it on the kitchen table. I hope you aren't still off your feet. I gave you time to cool down, Buddy said. He didn't apologize. Instead, he told her, I got it all figured out. That ranch I told you I was buying, I signed the papers yesterday. The bank hurried it through when I telegraphed I was going off to be a Rough Rider. You can quit the Rockin' A and go on up there and get things ready. This war isn't going to last but a minute, and I'll be home before you know it. I won't buy the cattle till I come back, so you don't have to worry about them or hiring hands. Buddy beamed at her. I even arranged for us to get married on Friday. The judge is coming out here, and Mr. Archer said he'll give you away. It's all took care of. Nell was stunned. She pushed aside the tin cans of geraniums and sat down on the window ledge, clasping her hands together because they were shaking. You did this without asking me? There's not a thing for you to worry about. I took care of everything. Nell tried to think of some way to tell Buddy she wasn't pleased, but suddenly she was angry, very angry. How dare he order her life without even consulting her and getting married that week without her grandparents present? She'd never agree to that. Didn't you remember? I said you ought to consult me before you made those decisions, didn't you? She clenched her fist. You don't have anything to do with it. It's my ranch and it's my decision to join up. And your decision to get married? To get married on Friday? You rather wait till Saturday? He smiled at his joke. Nell didn't. I thought we were getting married in the fall. I changed my mind. Well, I did not. I'm going off to war and I want a wife to come home to. I'm not going less than I'm married, so you just have to go along with it. Then I guess you'll stay home. Nell glanced out the window and saw Lucy standing there with Mr. Archer. She wondered how much of the conversation they had heard, but she didn't care. Buddy kicked at the table leg, nicking the wood with his spur and jarring the table, knocking over the roses. The water ran across the wood, but he only glanced at it and didn't soak it up. Neither did Nell. Suddenly Buddy lowered his voice. I said I'm getting married before I join up. If I go under, I want there to be somebody who'll remember me. If you don't want to marry me, then I know a girl who will. Nell looked at him in astonishment. Did he mean it? Alice? She threw the word at him. She's not so balky. She'd marry me in a minute. Just you wait and see. Then you better go find her. I wouldn't marry somebody as high-headed as you. You're going to marry that Lane Phillips fellow back in Kansas then. How did Buddy know about him? Then Nell remembered she had mentioned him once. Just maybe I will. Buddy kicked at a chair with the toe of his boot, then stopped and stared at Nell. I guess it's a good thing I found out how pig-headed you are. You go marry that Lane Phillips or Owen or somebody else cultist. They'll be glad to let you be in charge. I just guess I can marry Alice if I want to. It's easy done, and it's for sure I won't marry you. And I wouldn't marry you. Buddy stomped out of the kitchen, stopping to use his arm to brush the roses and the jar from the table. Nell watched through the doorway as he mounted his horse and rode off in the direction of Las Vegas. Then she used a cloth to wipe the water from the table, and Nell had picked up the roses and broken glass from the floor. After she had thrown them into the trash, she went into her room and closed the door. She took out the flour sack and began shoving her clothes into it. In a moment, Lucy came in. She didn't knock, but shoved open the door and stood by the bed watching Nell. I know it ain't my business, but I got to ask, what do you think you're doing? He got hot at me and I'm leaving. Now. Nell shoved the skirt into the bulging flour sack, then reached for another. He's just on the prod. He'll calm down. No, he won't. He's stubborn. He means what he says. I wouldn't be surprised if he's already halfway to town to propose to Alice McIntosh. I mean what I say, too. I see him now with a clear eye, Aunt Lucy. It's over. She glared at her aunt, too angry to cry. Now, Nell, you'll work it out. That's the way marriage is. Not marriage with Buddy. He thinks he'll be in charge and I'm to do what he says. Well, men are that way. That's one reason I chose not to marry again. We said too much that we can't ever take back, Aunt Lucy. It's the meanest luck, but it's done with. Nell looked around for anything she might have forgotten. She picked up her Bible from the bedside table and shoved it in with her clothes. You heard what he said. He's going off to marry Alice. Lucy sat down on the bed and smoothed the shirt that had fallen out of one of the flour sacks, then folded it and put it back. If you don't stop him, I'll expect he'll do just that. I don't care. I have too much pride to go after him. Nell stood and made a final sweep of the room. Aunt Lucy, will you ask Wendell to take me to the depot? Lucy sighed. Ask him yourself. I'm not aiding and abetting. She left the room, and Nell heard the screen door squeak. A moment later, Nell hurried to the barn and found Wendell and said she had to go to town right away. While she waited for Wendell to hitch up the carriage, she went back inside and wrote a note to Mr. Archer. But she did not write one to Buddy. He'd know why she was leaving. Then she slung the flour sacks over her shoulder and waited on the porch until Wendell drove up in the buggy, and she climbed in. No one waved to her and no one said goodbye. Nell looked straight ahead as she left the ranch. She didn't see the cattle that had stopped grazing to stare at her as she passed, or the flapping windmill that she had fixed with Buddy. She didn't look up as she rode by the broken wagon, and she didn't see Buddy, who was just stopped off the road watching her ride away. It's the end of chapter 9.